We don't have to do this. You know, if you're mad every time me, the Apple Sheet, that's the outro, that's the cover of the channel, the Apple Sheet, every time I review a non-Apple product, you want to explain to me why I'm wrong. You cannot convince me of my opinion. So we're not gonna have comment wars. You can post your paragraphs. I'm not going to respond because anything I could ever reply to you would not convince you otherwise, and whatever you comment will not convince me otherwise. So if you're gonna get mad at me, the Apple Sheep reviewing a Microsoft product, leave now. Go ahead. You're still here. I know you are. There are tons of people out there who love this thing. Go watch their reviews. They'll praise it. If you already own one and you just want someone to back you up on why it was a good purchase, skedaddle. Are you gone? No. A lot of you are still here, but okay, you know what? If you're still here, be prepared to be angry and feel like I'm wrong. So let's review the Microsoft Surface Pro 4. I was obviously very excited to be using my Adobe apps on the go. I still don't have a laptop, MacBook. So if I ever want to edit videos on the go on my iPad Pro, I just have to use iMovie, which is fine, but you can't do very much fancy stuff. So I was hoping to edit with Adobe apps on here. But before I got into that, I wanted to test it out as a tablet first. No keyboard, no trackpad, no mouse. Yeah, a lot of you don't think of it like that, do you? Every single reviewer reviews it with the keyboard, the Microsoft one that attaches to the bottom. And to me, that brings up the debatable question, is it really a tablet if you're using a trackpad and keyboard? To me, adding a physical keyboard like on the iPad Pro, the smart keyboard, it's still kind of a tablet because you have to touch the screen to get it to do stuff. But if you have a keyboard and trackpad, you never have to touch the display. So basically, I think it's a laptop at that point. So I just wanted to use it in tablet mode, which it does not come booted up with. You have to activate it just to see what I could do with it as a tablet. So when you are in tablet mode, you get the very controversial Windows 8 looking tile design. And you know what? I have to applaud Microsoft for being at least unique. They could have easily just had rows of apps like iOS or Android. They made it original and they made it their own thing to where you can resize the tiles, rearrange them, and they're all squares. It's clever and different, but is it good? So when I was trying to add a ton of apps to my home screen, I ran into the Windows Store issue that they're so well known for. The Windows Store is a barren wasteland. In fact, I actually kept a list of every time I wanted to download an app to the Windows Store, and it wasn't there at all. Now, of course, there's knockoff apps, but they have ads on them, and they want you to pay them to get rid of the ads. I'm talking official apps that don't exist on it. YouTube! That's kind of important. I mean, you're watching YouTube right now. The Google app, so like Google Now, that kind of thing, that's on iOS and Android. An official Twitch app, so if you like live streaming, there's not an official one. There's knockoff ones, but they have ads on them, and they're just not good. Instagram, that's kind of a big social network. You might have heard of it. Snapchat, also pretty big. YouTube Creator Studio, that's how I check all my stats on my videos. Not there. Over, the best app in the world. Definitely go buy it on iOS and Android. Wells Fargo, so I can't check my banking information. Imgur, funny social media, not social media, just funny site. Google Drive, so if you're into the office work that's not Microsoft's Cloud Suite, there's no app for that. Adobe Photoshop Sketch, an iPad app that's really good at drawing and making customizable art. Actually, any Apple app. So no Apple Music or iTunes, iCloud, any of that. Even a switch to iOS isn't there. And actually, after thinking about it, no Google app is on the Windows 10 store, which is weird because Google makes a ton of apps for iOS, but not the Windows store. So now don't get me wrong, keep in mind these are apps that aren't available on the tile section. It means you can still do all those things. You can still watch YouTube and Twitch. You just have to do it through the Microsoft Edge browser. And when you do it through that browser, you're getting the desktop version of each site, and that is just not very much optimized at all. It's like you can get by, but is it a seamless experience like you get on iOS or Android? Definitely not. You're pretending to be a computer with a touchscreen, and it's not fun. So again, it's doable, just not optimized, and that kind of sums up this entire product. You see, like on an iPad, and I haven't tested an Android tablet, but I'm gonna assume it's like this. You can have a YouTube app, which is very popular, on the home screen. Just tap it and it opens. Boom, there's your videos. You don't have to open a browser, bookmark YouTube, and then hit the bookmark of YouTube and not get the mobile optimized version. You get the desktop version. So buttons and fonts and everything are nice and small because they're supposed to be on a bigger screen or on a screen that has a trackpad or mouse. You don't get that optimized YouTube experience that you have on iPads and Android tablets. Now the Surface Pro actually has no physical home button either, and we all know how I feel about that. No, I don't like it. To have all digital stuff is annoying. In fact, there's really no home button at all now that I think about it. There's just kind of a start menu menu in the corner, which just brings up all the tiles. So in terms of physical interaction, there's just not that much to work with other than the on and off switch and volume rockers. That's really the only buttons. And the stylus, which I thought was cool because it is magnetically attached to the side, and it came with the tablet, so that was also nice. But then I stumbled upon the problem of the placement of the magnetic attachment. It's right on the side. And you know, it's really easy to access when you're using it with the kickstand like this and you just want to grab it. But if you're using it as a tablet like I was for a while, you realize that since it was designed to be in landscape mode, because the camera's up here and that's how you log in, and the kickstand goes out at the bottom, so this is the way it's supposed to be used. This is oftentimes where you grab the tablet itself, which means you pull off the pen on accident quite often. Whenever it's resting on a desk and I want to grab it, I'll do this and end up pulling the pen off, and I didn't even want to. Now it's just awkward pen. This would have been so much easier to fix if it went right here. There's not even ports up there, and it would be out of the way so that you could still do your racing games, use it without accidentally bumping the stylus all the time. See, just every time I grab it, it's off. I want to just hold this side of the tablet without popping it off, but every time I hold it like this, the stylus falls off. If it was right here, which unfortunately there's no magnet for, that problem would be solved. So it's really close to being handy, and now it's kind of an annoyance, and I just end up leaving the stylus at home. I don't bring it with me. There are some hacks. You can like put it in the center here. It's not very strong. It's pretty weak. Like I just shook it a little bit and it fell off. So I wouldn't recommend this, but you know, it's an easy fix. So the bottom line in terms of the tablet review of it, it's not really good at being a tablet because the layout is bizarre. At least it's unique. The Windows Store is very dry, which I'm not sure who to blame for that. I think that's kind of Google and Apple's fault somehow because they're not making apps for Windows. It's kind of like screw you. And the layout of the hardware is in the stylus. No home button. That's physical. In terms of hardware, it's not very practical as a tablet. That, of course, is not the reason, though, you all buy a Surface Pro 4, right? It's so you can use all your desktop apps and use it with the Microsoft keyboard and trackpad, which again brings up that debatable question, is this really a tablet? When you're using it with the keyboard and trackpad, you are never touching the display. You could get by with this entire thing and never touch the screen. And this is just a really front-heavy laptop. In that case, I'm gonna say no, it's not a tablet, because I know no one out there is using it like this and just like this and not using the desktop version. You're all using it for the desktop apps. So debatably, I'm just gonna start saying it's a laptop. You can call me wrong, but after using it for about 3 weeks now, this is not a tablet. And you know, every ad, every demo, every YouTube review reviews it with the keyboard, even though it doesn't come with it. So it's kind of like being able to undercut your retail price by like $150. Because it's like, look, it can do all desktop apps as long as you buy this extra thing on top of the $900. So it's really closer to $1,000 starting, unless you buy it like this, but like this, it's pretty useless. So saying it's not a tablet is not saying it's a bad product though, right? Because we still love our laptops. What's wrong with laptops? They're cool, right? So now let's review this thing as a laptop that also has a touchscreen, which there's a lot of those out there now. So in terms of ports on the side, it's kind of a little lacking for a laptop, given there's only one USB port, one micro SD card slot, MagSafe charger, headphone jack, and a mini display port. In terms of laptops, that's not a lot, but again, speaking as an Apple sheep are trying to get used to not having that many ports because MacBook is like USB-C only. But again, this isn't a Mac, so if you're anti-Apple and you like having those extra ports, this doesn't have everything, and it doesn't have a lot of everything, but it's there. And of course, you can buy USB extenders, like one USB port to 4. I believe Microsoft sells some. There's no SD card slot, which is kind of annoying as a filmmaker because it means you have to buy an adapter to USB, though it does take micro SD cards at the very bottom, and those are just not as common, but it's there. This means it is easily one of those accessory laptops, which accessory laptops are just laptops that can really take a lot of extra stuff to be fully useful. So you might be plugging lots of external things, external hard drive, external storage with a micro SD, even an external monitor, which I did for a while because I don't like the size of this. I like Adobe Premiere to be on a bigger screen. And of course, as a laptop, it doesn't come with a keyboard and mouse. You have to pay $100 for the Microsoft version that connects to the bottom. Or if you're like me, you're just cheap and want to find a hand-me-down Bluetooth keyboard and hand-me-down Bluetooth mouse. For like 15 bucks, you get basically the same experience. I tried out a Microsoft keyboard because a friend of mine has one of these and he had the keyboard. And it felt fragile and I thought the trackpad was too small for my comfort. I like editing with a mouse, not a trackpad anyway. I didn't want to pay $100 for something I didn't feel 100% okay with using. So I just found some cheap Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse. Maybe a lot of you out there really like having tons of things to plug into your laptop because you like being able to expand everything and then taking it on the go, which I guess is fine, but it's just this thing cannot do very much on its own, meaning whenever you go somewhere, you have to pack it all away or just lose certain features like an external monitor or your USB splitter. You have to unpack that, take it with you. Keyboard and mouse, if you don't want to use the trackpad, you have to also pack with you. So there's just a lot of pieces to go together with this thing, which is really just the brick of the computer, and tons of other things make it work to its full potential. And that full potential is being able to use it like a desktop PC, which is one of the best benefits of the Surface Pro 4, is that it can take anything your old desktop PC could take before. So you want to run .exes, you can, or desktop apps like Steam or Adobe. So if you're buying a tablet, but you don't want to lose any of your old PC applications that you had before the big Windows 8, 10 switch, you can keep all those old programs and move them on here. So that's pretty neat. But of course, there's no promises on saying how well it will run, because a lot of apps out there are not designed to be on this touchscreen layout. A popular app like iTunes per se is not optimized for touch controls if you want to use those exe regular files. So once you've got your accessories all running and you got all your modern apps on there, I personally thought it did very well. I edited like 5 tech videos on it, including this one. I even edited an entire video podcast that's on our Tailosive Talks channel, episode 10 on here, which is really impressive because that's like the hardest editing a lot of computers can take, is multi-camera. So I had 3 streams of 1080p video running at 60 FPS, and I was editing between them during that podcast. And you do have to turn down the preview resolution, but this thing could handle it. And I edited it with the Stylus just by tapping each angle of each camera, and I gotta say that was pretty neat. It ran smoothly, it didn't drop audio, it didn't drop frames, and I was impressed. And then on the main channel, we do comedy sketches and stuff. I put 4K video on this thing and edited about a 3-minute short that was filmed in 4K, exported it at 1080, but you know, exporting it's fine at. But it handled the 4K video very well. So I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the amount of processing power the hardware can take. And this again is the Intel i5, 8 gigabytes of RAM with 256 gigs of storage. So it's like the standard model, but it can handle pretty heavy video editing, which is what I do mostly. Of course, when you're editing video like that, battery life shrinks down to 3, even 2 hours sometimes. So always have the charger near you. And you know, the charger's kind of weird. You know, Microsoft loves their bricks, like on the Xbox One. So like an iPad has the wall outlet that goes into the wall. This thing has that brick it comes out with. I don't know, it's a little sloppy. And it has a USB port on that brick, so you can charge things with it. I guess thanks for letting me charge my phone and the Pro at the same time. I don't know, it's bizarre. But the MagSafe charger on the side is very nice. For everyday use, if you're using it on and off throughout the day, that's about 9 to 10 hours. The website's not lying. So battery life's decent for a laptop, pretty good. However, if you are a person who's kind of paranoid about the government spying on you, or don't want companies knowing your private information, I would highly discourage you from doing anything on Windows 10, because that is known for being not secure at all. Windows 10 is free because it does a lot of data mining on its users. So if you're worried about that kind of thing, because you're guilty and I know you killed somebody, then maybe not get something like this. The creepiest thing it did, which I got while unboxing it, is without my permission, I was just booting it up. I logged into my Microsoft account. The camera and the infrared sensor turned on, saw my face within 1 second. It captured my face with facial recognition, made it the login method for the device without my consent at all. It just turned on and said, there's your face, got it, okay, that's how you log in now. Now, I'm not huge on privacy. I don't care that they stole my face and they may have it in a server somewhere. Who cares? I'm uploading my face all the time. I still think that's a little creepy. You know, if Apple did anything like that, which they might in the future, it's definitely gonna be a, can we access the camera to view your face as a login method? It definitely won't be a default, got your face, now we have it, especially when Windows 10 is known for data mining. If you're paranoid about that stuff, it's a little weird. And then again, what if, you know, dad just bought a Surface Pro 4 and his son was setting it up for him? Don't worry, dad, I got it. And the son was just writing stuff in, and then it grabbed the son's face instead of dad's. Now, anytime dad wants to use the Surface Pro, he's gonna need to hold it in front of his son's face. And of course, to fix that, they're gonna have to go into the settings and re-edit the facial recognition. I just thought it was really bizarre that that was installed as a default. That should really be an option. Now, I left it on there, but I did find it didn't work a lot of the time. Most of the time, it's fine. I'd say 70-30. 30% of the time, I would hold my face in front of it like this, and it would say, hold it close, hold it closer. Then I would do this, and they would say, no, no, it's too close, back away. So you'd have to hold it just right, and it'd be like, no, we can't see you, use your pin. So it also makes you put in a pin in case facial recognition doesn't work. So that whole security login thing is just sloppy to me. And sometimes it'll say, we can't recognize your face, and you'll swipe up from the lock screen and it's unlocked anyway. Like, if it's already unlocked, why show me a lock screen? The whole sign-in process feels really sloppy to me. So there's a bunch of little things like that that are added, and I don't think they were thought through very well or put into practice. Like the rear-facing camera, they put that on there. Like I said in my iPad Pro review, it's good that tablets have cameras on the back, but this thing is a complete joke. It's not even decent, to the point where if you were trying to scan pictures with it so you can write on top of it, it's just not worth it. Just don't. Cortana is pretty fancy, but she's pretty pointless. I already think Siri on the Mac is not very functional, but I do like that Siri on the Mac can send texts for you. And in this setup, Cortana is only limited to Microsoft apps. So just, you know, reminders, calendar, and then random facts, which is cool for show, but not functional. And before I bought this, I was really jealous of the kickstand, that you could set it up all by itself without buying a case. But then I realized why Apple would never put that on an iPad. Having that kickstand means making protective cases is really difficult for third-party developers because you can never completely wrap it up. Because there's not very many cases for the Surface Pro 4, but of the ones there are, to be able to support that kickstand to come out, they don't protect the entire thing. So there's still exposed areas. And then of course there are some cases that will just cover up the kickstand entirely and make it useless. But if you do that, now you can't access the micro SD card slot. So that takes away some functionality. So if you want to personalize this thing while giving it protection like you can on an iPad, it's just not there. You really just get the Surface keyboard. That's all that can go with this. And that doesn't protect the whole back of it. And having a kickstand infers that there's a wrong way to hold it. So like, even though the software can work upside down, it makes the kickstand pointless. It puts the cameras in weird places. Whereas an iPad you can use easily in any orientation. Portrait mode works, upside down even works just fine. And this screen rotation is really slow compared to an iPad. I found the Stylus neat and handy that it has an eraser and a clip, and it comes with the device, but you know, I'm used to writing on an Apple Pencil, which I do fairly regularly, and I get that's more expensive, but using OneNote on this thing, it was just not the same experience. You couldn't write the same amount of stuff. The software is not as fun to use as like Adobe Photoshop Sketch, which is on iOS and not this. The other weird thing is you can't scroll with this stylus. You have to scroll with your finger. You can't just scroll with the stylus. I thought that was bizarre. There's a little clicker on it that enacts right click if you hold it just right. So, you know, it's not my favorite. OneNote also took a long time to set up because it wanted to connect to some internet, and we have really crappy internet out here. Whereas on an iPad, you can just open the Notes app and start drawing immediately. This was like, sign into this account and make sure you start a new notebook. It was a lot harder to start drawing with this, and drawing didn't feel as natural or as easy. So, you know, there's just a ton of things that are really cool in concept, but once they're put into practice, they're not very useful. The kickstand, it can support itself, but then, you know, it's actually kind of flimsy after a while, and it makes protective cases really hard to find that are stylish. The magnetic stylus attachment, but then again, every time you grab the tablet, you're pulling it off on accident. The tablet mode means you can disconnect your keyboard and mouse and then use it just as a tablet, except the Windows Store is dead and the tiles are unique but kind of confusing. You can run it as its own desktop computer, but you have to buy a bunch of accessories like a keyboard and mouse to use it as its full potential. Okay, so this is very Apple sheep of me to say, okay? But this thing says it can be both a laptop and a tablet, and it's not great at being either. It's just this really, really bizarre hybrid that has a few niches it does really well, but it exceeds nowhere. It's not super good at anything. It's just kind of mild or terrible at a bunch of things. It has its little victories, like in video editing. I thought that was really neat as a video editor. So if you're a techie person who can get through navigating through Windows 10, the modern version of Windows with the tiles and the desktop as well, I think you'll get through this just fine. You tech people who are into this kind of thing, you'll get used to it pretty quick and you'll probably enjoy it, which I did after a while. After editing on the go, I very much enjoyed this thing. But if you're an everyday user, I'm gonna say no, don't bother, please. Everyday people would not like this thing. The tiles are weird. You can't do basic tasks that other optimized tablets have software to do, like just watching YouTube videos on an app called YouTube, where this makes you go through the browser and stuff. It's sloppy. And yeah, I'm gonna be sending this back after I film my iPad Pro versus Surface Pro 4 video, which is gonna be really interesting because I just said this isn't a tablet. So yeah, that comparison video is coming, Caleb. Stop asking for it. You don't think I read those comments? I'm working on a lot of things, okay? Just relax. Caleb, thank you for subscribing. The problem is there's regular laptops out there that come with the keyboard and trackpad attached that have all these same specs. They may not have a tablet mode, but that is not a perk. No one is using tablet mode on this. They just want the desktop stuff, and for that, you can get cheaper stuff with the same specs. So I don't think this is a hit, even though I was excited for it. It can do some pretty cool stuff, but it's not super good at anything. And thank you so much for watching my longest video ever until the iOS is better than Android documentary comes out next month, hopefully. I'm gonna get so much hate for that one. Thanks for sticking around. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.